I purchased this Huffy Nighthawk for $99 from Walmart. I was curious if a $99 hardtail would have better components than a $99 full suspension. The box arrived intact with no holes, but it was taped together, not sealed up. I'm hoping I didn't get a product return. The label had something shocking on it. It said men's ATB. That stands for all-terrain bike, not mountain bike. Does this mean that Walmart is now accurately labeling their bikes? We'll get to the label hang tag in just a moment, but before we do, just look at it. These bikes always look so good. This is a very nice looking bike, and the hardtail design really suits it, and I'm hoping that gets us some better components. It was listed as an ATB on the outside of the box. The hang tag has been changed. Now it only mentions light trail. No more superior control on rough terrain. Looking at the components, starting up top, the same handlebars and stem that we see on a lot of these low-end bikes. Not a fan of these stems, but that's what you get for 99 bucks. Huffy branded grips paired up to micro shift twist shifters. No Shimano or SRAM twist shifters. Get micro shift. Cable and lever housing branded Li Ming, which could easily be confused for a misspelling of the word lemming. Brake levers themselves, they're alloy. Cable housings dual color, black and the green that corresponds with the color of the trim on the bike. I like it when things match up like that. Huffy branding on the head tube looks good, but it's very poorly applied. Front suspension fork, no preload adjustments, just caps. No surprise there, it is a $99 bicycle. Was surprised to see this front arch brake. Very, very thin, thinnest I've ever seen. Down lower we have the Colo branding very poorly applied on this front suspension fork. Model 4200. Down to the dropouts, no quick release skewers. Nuts holding the whole wheel assembly together. 26-inch graphics on the alloy rims, paired up to Kai-Lin brand tires. Could easily be misread as Killin brand. Is that a poodle? The steel frame looks pretty good. It's got a nice satin black finish with green graphics. There you see Nighthawk on the top tube. Now on the very top graphic mentions that it's a rigid frame design. That's because it's a hardtail. The down tube is void of any bottle cage or any mounts for anything, but it does have Huffy graphics that are very poorly applied. Cabling routes under both the top tube and the down tube. The saddle is the exact same saddle as on the $59 Huffy, only this one's void of any Huffy branding. The steel seat post is held in place by a quick release seat clamp. The front derailleur, generic, looks identical to the cheap front derailleur you see on Pacific Cycles bikes. Even comes complete with a protruding cable that pokes you in the leg as you pedal. The pedals themselves, very tiny, very flimsy. As a matter of fact, they're the exact same pedals that are on the $59 Huffy. Mate those to crank arms that, well, that's not the crank arm. That's a plastic housing on the crank arm. The actual crank arm is that tiny little area you see on the back of the housing. That's the thinnest crank arm I've ever seen on a bike. Crank set has a plastic chain ring guard that has white inserts that match the trim on the rest of the bike. The gears themselves, nothing fancy, very basic, same stuff you see on most cheap bikes, but at least these aren't warped. The same chain is on the $59 Huffy as is on this $99 Huffy, as is the cassette, identical. The rear derailleur, the exact same Shimano SIS rear derailleur you get on many cheap bikes. I'm not a fan of this, but that's what you get for 99 bucks. Chainstay graphics actually spell out 18, so when you spend 99 instead of 59, they spell out the words for you. Shimano equipped branding on the seat stay. This has front disc brakes, we'll get to those in a second, but linear pull rear. Rear tire, the same 26 by 195 Killin Poodle brand tire. As I mentioned, front disc up front, 160mm rotor, green painted calipers to match the graphics on the bike. JAK super calipers, I looked them up. Apparently, they are Taiwan-based manufacturer-esque, and their products can be seen in plaqué like Target, Aldi, and Kmart. The Huffy Nighthawk's a great-looking bike, and it does share some cheap components with that $59 Huffy behind it. I'll do a review comparing the two later. But for now, let me just say, I am impressed by the fact that they included on the info card information that clearly stated what this bike could do, and didn't make outlandish claims about it being a mountain bike. This is a very light trail bike and a road bike. Let's get it on the road now and see how it handles. On the road, it was very smooth. Only took me a couple of minutes to hate the twist shifters though. On a trail, a light trail, the bike did as it's supposed to do. It handles minor bumps and turns very well. Again, those twist shifters are very annoying, so as long as you're on flat, it's fun. But it is a shame that this isn't a mountain bike trail. Okay, let's take this thing on a mountain bike trail. Instantly, it was evident just by the noise of the front suspension that this thing was not meant for a mountain bike trail. Now, I did stay on the easiest part of the mountain bike path, so no real challenge here, but the bike did handle the trail very well. Never felt out of control at any moment. Those grip shifters did give me problems when my hands got sweaty though. I couldn't shift. That's why you won't see me going uphill much. You know, I really do love 26-inch tires on a bike. Fun and agile. Brings back the good old days. You know, this bike probably wouldn't hold up very long on a trail, but it was handling it better than I expected. That is until I started hitting the bumps. Then those twist shifters started getting annoying. They would shift when I wasn't expecting it, even though when I want to shift, I can't. On the flat, smooth parts of the trail, the bike was actually kind of pleasant. I even worked up the nerve to take a quick hop on the thing. That said, I don't think it would be able to handle this very much at all. The pedal had already, the left pedal that is, had already started making a popping noise. So I decided it was time to get off the trail and start heading back home. Took the bumpiest path possible on the way out of the trail. Little ruddy, little rooty, but those tires gripped well to be cheap little tires, and it got me out of the trail. No problems on the trail, but exiting it, I threw a chain. Go figure. All in all, this was a very pleasant experience with this bike. It wasn't bad at all, at least for one day. Now, I don't think it would hold up long on a trail. On the road, maybe, but definitely not on a trail, but there were high points. The front disc brakes stopped perfectly every time and without any noise. As a matter of fact, even the rear brakes were quiet the entire day. The front suspension didn't really do much dampening, but it did have some movement, about 50 millimeters worth. Now these cheap bikes, the geometry is just really not there, not a lot of planning, and that was evident with this front tire. This is a 26-inch front tire, and if I was at the 3 o'clock position with the pedals, my toe would rub the tire if I cut it deep. The pedals themselves, another weak point. These cheap, flimsy pedals, this left one in particular, it was making a click and it felt like it was going to come off. Plus, the twist shifters are absolutely worthless without gloves on a hot day. This is the best $99 bicycle I've ridden thus far. If you could only afford a $99 bike, this may be okay as long as you took it easy and didn't get it on mountain bike trails. Or at least until you can afford something better. Thanks for watching and have a great day.